think 16, 17-year-olds today are also a lot more aware. They're a lot more informed, and what we like to say, a lot more woke.
It makes you feel bad about yourself when you don't have what the other person has on the screen.
Because you can see so much, you constantly feel like you're missing out on something.
One big word that comes up again and again, and it's something that I really see very frequently, is anxiety.
Academia and there's social stuff, and you kind of feel like you're being blasted from every possible direction with pressure for everything.
Where there is a digital footprint that you leave behind, which essentially cannot really be erased. What does it do to the minds of young people?
Biggest way you can move forward is by telling yourself that I have no control over this and I'm going to feel bad sometimes.
I think even before awareness comes something else, which is so crucial, which is acceptance.
People in our lives, in our families, they need to understand and accept sometimes that they are not going to be the people we want to go to for everything.
Every generation that exists before the generation that is currently there thinks that the current one is doomed.
Hi Ishita, hi Adya, and hi Gayatri. Welcome. Hello. Welcome to the About Her Show. Now, this is largely a show where we get trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us. To tell us about their successes, failures, challenges, all of that. So that not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire others. And then we get men on the show because we believe that for a truly gender-inclusive world, men and women need to be allies in this journey. So amongst the several, areas, domains that I've covered, mental health is also one of them. And so far, we've been talking about mental health of adults, mental health of women, mental health of men, but we have never spoken about the mental health of teenagers, and that too, girls. So since this is a woman-centric show, women-centric podcast, we definitely want to know what happens and what is it, the kind of struggles and challenges which young girls of today are facing. And to give it a kind of, how should I say, a more holistic perspective, I decided to include their teacher as well. Because I feel that you're part of an institution, you are going through the same processes, same everything, but from a different perspective, angle is different. So it would be good to know, as they say, both sides of the story. So I'm actually raring to go because I really want to know what you think about all the various issues that you face. So once again, a very, very warm welcome to you, Adya, to you, Gayatri, and to you, Ishita.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right. So since she's a teacher, the first question is addressed to her. So Ishita, tell me, from what you see every day, how has the emotional world of teenagers changed in recent years?
So I'd like to begin by talking about first, the teenagers. I think once we're adults, we tend to, it's a given that it we look at teenagers as the difficult age. There's problems. How do we address them? That's a kind of trope, I think. I feel that the world has changed a lot. The world that we give to teenagers is largely created by adults. And the developmental needs, the emotional needs of teenagers haven't really changed, particularly, I would say, from the time that I was growing up. What has changed is the world and the responses of the adults, as well as what we expect teenagers to be. And the environment has changed drastically. I think that is what has changed. Emotionally, the needs are pretty much the same. There is a sense of seeking of identity. There is a sense of what we call so-called teenage rebellion, is essentially you trying to find out who you are. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? And an inevitable process, part of that is rubbing up against the personalities of the adults around you who have been so far instrumental in shaping you. And I do feel that, giving teenagers credit, there is an acknowledgement of that, but it's also the quest for the self. which is something that we are not used to seeing in younger children, because we get compliance very easily from younger children. Teenagers tend to want to question things. They don't necessarily always comply. They are finding their own place. And I think we must also respect the fact that as adults, we don't always know, especially in today's world, more than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. We don't always know the world that they are going to inhabit when they are our age. There is this sense that we carry as adults that we know what we're doing, and it's best if you listen to us. But I think it also needs to be acknowledged that we don't really always know the world that they are going to inhabit. In some senses, they do have a sense of what the challenges they are facing in terms of the environment they're living in. The exposure is immense. The access to information is immense. And I have to say that before we get into the challenges that causes, I think 16, 17 year olds today are also a lot more aware. They're a lot more informed, and what we like to say, a lot more woke in many ways. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think I couldn't say that at 16 or 17 I was as self-aware as many of the teenagers that I interact with. So I think I see that as a huge step forward. It's but it doesn't happen on its own. It happens because of the environments that are provided. It happens because of parenting that is very aware. It happens because of educational institutions that are sensitive and inclusive. And I think it's a product of all of those things. And on the other hand, you also see the flip side of having too much information too quickly, too much access to things too quickly. And where that can also take you, you also see the flip side of that.
Right.
So I would say that the teenage quest for self is very much the same as it always was. The sense of finding who you are as an individual, your exploration of the world of ideas, your exploration of the world of relationships, your exploration of where do you fit into this large, big world, and where are you heading. All of that is the same. I think one of the things that we adults tend to do is because teenagers begin to sound so much like adults, they express themselves so much like adults, we tend to forget that there is still a child in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and we start treating them like adults, but it's a very specific developmental stage where we I think we need to be there for them, but in different ways now.
Absolutely.
So I think that is what I understand about the world of teenagers today. I don't feel that they've necessarily changed in terms of their emotional and psychological needs, but the world around them has changed, and they've had to adapt and respond to that very quickly.
You're right. It is, see, the teenage requirements, whatever struggles, challenges they are going through, have always been the same. The environment is definitely different. There's a lot happening. And I think they are adapting very well. They are coping because this is what they see. It is we as adults who are constantly comparing our teenage
Yeah.
years with them and trying to, judge them from that perspective, which I think is not fair at all. You have to, they are presented with a certain set of circumstances and they are dealing with those circumstances in the best way possible. And like you said, they have a lot of information, they're a lot more aware. So I think, to my mind, they're dealing with it in the best possible way. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, but that's a different story altogether. And you have to remember, it's not about you, it's about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Adya and Gayatri, my next question is addressed to you. So, Adya, why don't you go first? Now, tell me, what does it honestly feel like to be a teenager today in this
It's
world of...
weird, honestly.
Sorry?
It's really weird.
Hmm.
You feel like an adult, but you also feel like you want to go back to being 5 years old. Um, it's just that awkward phase in time where we don't know anything, but we know everything sort of a situation. Um, and I think what the both of you were discussing about circumstances that we have been presented with, and the struggles that have remained the same since like the beginning of time. It's always been that teenage years have always been that awkward period of time for everybody.
Right.
It's not just us. It's not just the so-called Gen Zers. But this, with the amount of technology and with the access of information that we have right now, I believe that we are coping with it as much as we can. We're trying to use it to do good. Sometimes it doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay. All
I'll
right.
come back to you in a bit if I think of something else.
Sure. So Gayatri, what do you have to say?
So I feel like this is kind of a confusing question because I only know what it's like to be a teenager today. So I can only look at it from that way. I don't know what it would be like to be a teenager, like at your time or Ishadi's
Absolutely.
time or
We
any
want
other
to
time.
we just want you to share your experience.
Yeah. And but what I think is like what building off what Ada said is that you have so much information around you and there's like you get like milestones that you're supposed to have by this time and like there's obviously that was there like before as well that you feel like you need to have like a boyfriend by now or you need to have like you need to have done like you should have drank by now or whatever stuff like that but because you have social media you get reminded of that more regularly that this is what friendship should look like so like if you're feeling like everybody's busy you're going to get like 1,000 reels pushed your way about oh like these friends hanging out so it's complicated and because you can see so much it's you constantly feel like you're missing out on something
Hmm.
in every moment.
So
If I can add on to what Gayatri,
yeah, yeah,
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if I can add on to what Gayatri said,
yeah,
something that really contributes to being a teenager is obviously having social media.
yeah,
And as girls, there's so many let's say makeup tutorials and beauty standards that are set by social media that honestly just really mess with a young person's mind, and it makes you feel bad about yourself when you don't have what the other person has on the screen.
right.
Yeah.
um it's like, and then that pushes to consumerism with the amount of makeup products and everything that people are buying, with the stuff, with the fast fashion trends that are happening.
Right, right, right. So, see, this is more also about our trying to understand you and even our listeners and viewers. Because, like I said, adults have this habit, which is also not something new. They always have a habit of looking at others, especially young people, from their perspective, comparing them to their times, to their experiences. So, this is also about us two and you two getting together and trying to make sense of what is happening in your world and trying to make people in our world understand it, because I truly believe that it's never easy. And like you said, with all this social media and more information, more awareness, it is only more difficult than before. It's gotten tougher. It's not easy at all right. So my next question is again addressed to the two of you. So Gayatri, you go first. So we all face different kinds of pressures, right? And it never gets easier when it comes to pressures. But in your life at this stage, what are the biggest pressures you face at school and even outside?
So at school, obviously, it's the thing about marks, and my parents don't necessarily they're not the type of people who care about marks very much, like
Mhm.
or at all, actually. But the thing is that when you see your friends doing really well, you sort of feel this pressure on yourself to do well, and so there's that. And then like I mean, I started the college thing started right now, but my friends who were applying abroad their college stuff started like a lot earlier. So there was a pressure that, okay, what if I don't get into any college at all? So
Mhm.
there's that. And then there's also that, okay, I'm 18 now and it's the end of the school year and I should have done this much by now. And
Right.
like, have I even managed to achieve that much? So it's like coming in from every possible angle. So there's academia and there's social stuff and you kind of feel like you're being blasted from every possible direction with pressure for everything.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
But I feel like you really learn to relax when you let go of that pressure for 5 seconds and just like let yourself be. When and friends can really help with that, to tell you that you're doing okay. You're at the adequate space. You've not gone too far, or you're not too like far behind. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, Adya, what about you? What do you have to say?
I completely agree with everything Gayatri said.
Hmm.
It's also the thing that a lot of people who have applied abroad or have, gotten their acceptances with conditions that, oh, you need to score this much in the board exams for you to get your acceptance, actually.
Hmm.
And just this, all the competitive exams, the preparation for everything,
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest challenges ever, because at this moment, that's what it feels like, at least.
Hmm.
Because what if on that, it's so many unexpected scenarios can happen. What if I'm ill that day on the day of the exam? What if I'm unprepared? What if something happens? So it's just so many unknowns that really scare me, at least.
Hmm.
um, and honestly, this past 12th grade is our last year in school. And for me, one of the biggest challenges has been regret. I regret not going to that party. I regret not going out with my friends more.
Hmm.
I regret not studying for that particular exam.
Right, right. So there is pressure from the academic side for sure, because obviously you're at that juncture where you're at the threshold where you are going to step into a new life, college and all of that, college of your choice, subjects of your choice, and of course the social pressure as well. So yes, coping up with that, I'm sure is not easy, but tell you what, life will always come with its set of pressures. You grow up 10 years down the line, there'll be some other kind of a pressure. 20 years down the line, there'll be some other kind of a pressure. And I think these teenage years are the best time for you to learn how to cope up with pressure. Because life will always throw challenges, throw curveballs at you. So I don't want to sermonize, but that's the truth. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ishita. Next one is for you. Now, you have been teaching for a long time and you've had several batches of students, passed out. So, in your experience, in today's world, what are the mental health challenges which are showing up the most, say, as compared to maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever?
So I'll begin by saying that as an educator today, as compared to an educator earlier, one of the best things is that we also know a lot more. We are a lot more aware, and we have a lot more access to information as well as facilitators. So just being able to name something sometimes helps.
Right.
Although that can also become a debilitating label, when we're speaking of children. So, for example, if I say there's one big word that comes up again and again, and it's something that I really see very frequently, is anxiety.
Right.
Different kinds of anxiety, whether it's performance anxiety, whether it's social anxiety, right? Or we now have this word again. I use words and labels with a lot of caution,
Hmm.
which is ADHD, right? So these are definitely things that are something that teachers are having to cope with every day, and I think sometimes being an adult who has past that phase or grown up at a different time, it's very tempting to look at young people and say, well, children are not as resilient as they used to be. We love this word resilience as well, but we forget that to develop resilience also, you've had certain life experiences that built that resilience. You weren't born resilient. None of us were born resilient, and we can't expect young people to just uh, very competently deal with everything that comes their way. They are in the process right now of building that resilience, and it's our job, whether it's teachers, parents, school communities, to build that support network around them, to provide them an environment that, even before we talk about awareness, yes, teachers are aware, but I think awareness is not enough. I think even before awareness comes something else, which is so crucial, which is acceptance, which means that if I have these 20-25 children in my class, before we even begin to develop a bond, I accept you for who you are, okay? Without judgment. And that is so difficult to do as an adult, because the moment young people sense judgment from you, they are not going to open up to you.
Definitely.
The moment they feel that they are not in an environment where there is acceptance of who they are as they are, how are they even going to talk about what their problems are?
Right.
Right. So if I need to deal with somebody who's facing, and the anxiety again is of different kinds, right? Somebody wants to look a certain way, somebody has body image issues, somebody is feeling that they're constantly underperforming or inadequate in some ways. And it's fed into by a lot of the things that the children talked about, like social media and so many things. The benchmark always seems to be escaping you, right? You never seem to be, the moment you get somewhere, it feels like the goalpost has shifted, right? The benchmark has shifted. And as a teenager, it's you're always feeling that. We felt it too, but they feel it more acutely because it's always staring them in the face.
Correct.
So I think anxiety is one of the things that I see around me a lot. And I think um as an educator, the first thing you need to do, like I said, is before you even educate yourself about something, is acceptance. And I cannot talk about this enough, because I feel that so many teachers need to come from that place, a place of less judgment and more acceptance. And no matter how, and I tell this to myself as well, we all feel we are very accepting of people, we are doing the most that we can, but I think there's always more. There's always, you can always be kinder, you can always be gentler, you can always spare a few more minutes to talk to that child after class. You can always spare some more time to just sit down, have that one on one. And also in how we choose our words, in what we say to them, instead of making mental health another exam to pass, another battle to be won. That, oh, look at so and so did it and then achieved this. I think that kind of talk puts a lot of pressure again on children, because you're telling them that so and so overcame something and then went on to achieve something. And so, I mean, that's not acceptance.
No.
Because when you're going through something like anxiety, it kind of puts you in a freeze mode. You're not really looking at where you want to go from there. You're looking at how to cope with now. I need to get through my today to be able to get even think of it tomorrow, right? And there are different levels of how acutely different children experience this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think just creating environments of absolute acceptance where we have time, we have patience. We're all short on patience these days. We're all trying to tick off more and more boxes. I need to get from one class to another. I need to finish syllabi. The children need to, they are also, not just adults, even children are low on patience these days. What's the next thing to do? What's the next thing to do? What's the next thing to do? We are all overscheduled. But I think to just pause, hit that pause some space, that psychologically and physically safe space. We live in very safe physical spaces, but psychologically safe spaces, I am not so sure. I think there's more work that we can do as adults on that.
Agree. And I think this is like, when you talk about acceptance and when you talk about not being judgmental, I think we as adults have to remember that if we do this, we're also teaching our children to become more accepting. Because this is what it is. You are setting the tone. If you want them to walk a particular way, then you've got to walk the talk yourself. So if you start accepting, if you start being non-judgmental, then whatever they are facing, they also know that, okay,
Yeah.
first of all, they can open up, and then they, as when they grow up to be become adults, they will also treat people the same way. So you are setting just the right tone, just the right example. So I think there's, whatever the teenagers may be facing today, there is a huge amount of responsibility on adults, not only educators, but parents, everyone, to be very careful about what you do, how you do, what is the impression you are giving, and like you say, how accepting are you of people who may be different from you. So that I think is a very, very important point. And what I again want to stress is that we as adults have to remember that this is what we are teaching these children, that this is how you have to be in this world. So we have to be mindful about that.
Young people are not always looking at what we say. We think
Yeah,
we go
yeah,
into a
yeah.
classroom, we teach something, and sure, they're listening to what we say, but they're also watching us.
Of course,
They're
of course,
watching how we conduct ourselves,
absolutely.
how we are with each other. I mean, it is amazing to me sometimes the observations that children make children will come up with and the things that they pick up with just
Hmm.
by listening to two adults speaking.
Yes, 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 absolutely. We have to be mindful. All right. So we are talking about stresses and we are talking about pressure. So, girls, my next question is to you. Gayatri, tell me, when you feel stressed or overwhelmed, who do you usually turn to and why?
So it's kind of dependent on the type of stress that I'm having,
Okay.
because sometimes I know that there are certain situations that my parents just can't help me with. Like, as in, like if I tell them that I'm stressed about this,
Hmm.
they won't get it. And I sometimes I don't want counsel. Sometimes I want somebody to complain with me about the same thing. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as in, like sometimes I want to call my friend and talk about how bad the syllabus is, and I want to talk with her and I just want to complain about it together. I don't want to be told what to do next. But
Very.
then there are situations again where I want to be inspired. I want to be given some amount of like counsel as to what where I should go next. So
Hmm.
in situations like that, I'll go to either like a teacher that I trust, or I'll go to my parents, or like maybe sometimes, but that's less often. I'll go to like an older cousin or something. But it's actually really dependent on what I want from that specific situation. What I want as like a response, because I feel like I subconsciously know what I need out of a person.
Right.
So based on that, I go to different people.
That's really, I mean, that just shows, that how aware teenagers are. You know who to go to, who to approach, and that's how it is. You have to have that clarity of thought. Adya, what about you?
I think it's the same thing. It depends on the situation, why I'm stressed. If my parents are stressing me out, I'll go to my friends. If my friend circle or something that I can't figure out, like socially, is what's stressing me, I'll go to my mom. And if it's just something that there's times where I stress myself out,
Hmm.
where I know that if I talk to my friends, that'll make it worse. I know that I'll talk to my parents, I'll just get like they'll try to motivate me, but it'll end up like going to a wrong place.
Hmm.
So sometimes I just have to turn to myself to figure it out, to take a breath, take a nap sometimes. That
Mm-hmm.
helps.
Yeah, yeah. And you have
But yeah,
deal with things in different ways. All right. So tell me, girls, are there, you can go for this, that how much does social media and comparison affect your confidence or mood? Of course, we've spoken about it briefly earlier, but I really want to understand this because social media has become such a big part of our lives nowadays. So, what do you have to say about this?
um, social media as a general for young people, it's just become a mode of communication, right? Instagram is where we all talk to each other, where we post our stories, we do everything essentially. WhatsApp is for the essential stuff.
Okay.
Um, so it's just you see other people with things that you don't have that makes you feel less about yourself, maybe. You um it Comparison is really the thief of joy, is
Okay.
what I'm thinking right now.
Hmm.
Um, it affects a lot of things: how you carry yourself,
Hmm.
what you're wearing, um, and I would say that social media has become this monster of a thing. Um, I have never been a very confident kid.
Hmm.
I was never very sure of myself, and I got social media when I was about 14 years. And I would say that it sort of made it worse
Okay.
in the beginning, especially because I didn't know how to operate it. Number one, I
Hmm.
don't think my parents were on social media as well. They were on, and um, it's not even just that we see people who look like us on social media. We
Hmm.
see people from around the globe.
Right.
When you're scrolling your reels, you see somebody in Vancouver or from London. It's just you see everybody and you see things that you are not or you want
Hmm.
really badly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that can really mess things up for you because then you've just taken a step backwards in your, maybe if you're journeying to reaching a goal
Hmm.
of being sure of yourself. That just makes it a little bit worse.
Right.
And but the thing is, what I saw from responses in my own conversations with people is that social media isn't always bad, or it doesn't always steal confidence of people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was the case, especially in the beginning. But it can also, obviously, it's a mode of communication. It can also build you up.
What you're trying to say is that it is how you use it. It is there.
Yeah.
It is something which exists. And now, like they say, everything has a positive and a negative side to it. You
Mhm.
have to see what you are doing with it. Yes, initially, you may get overwhelmed. You may get pressurized to be a certain way because of all that you are seeing over there. But essentially, eventually, you have to figure out what is the good thing that you can see out of there. Is there some kind of inspiration that you can get from there? Is there some kind of motivation? And motivation not only to dress well or look good, of all of those things, but other
Yeah.
kinds of things also, maybe different vocations, different professions, different ways of doing things. So yes, it is how you use it.
So what you were saying of how we should use social media, it's all dependent on that. There are things called algorithms, right?
Yes.
In any sort of social media platforms, it shows you what you want to see or what you have been seeing and what you stop at,
Right.
and it shows you similar things. And again, that's the whole how you use it.
Yes.
If I stop at a motivational post for 2 minutes, it's going to start showing me more things.
Yeah.
If I just look at memes or if I just look at makeup tutorials on whatever, it's just going to keep showing me that.
Yes. So yes, it is the way you use it. That's very, very important. Gayatri, what do you have to say?
So I'm one of those people who got social media a little later in my life.
Okay.
So I got it when I was 17.
Hmm.
And because of that, I think so it had less of an effect on me. Obviously, when I got it at first, it was very overwhelming, and I was just like, I was getting reminded. I got it during my summer break, which
Okay.
was like we were traveling in a few weeks, but then I was seeing all of these people meeting up with their friends, and I'm like, okay, I haven't made any plans with my friends.
Hmm.
But so it was overwhelming in that sense. But I feel like um it can also lead to like a sense of solidarity that okay, like there are other people who are like me, and whether it's like finding the beauty in the way that you look, like as in like I'm saying that that's not the case for everybody, but like the thing is
Yeah.
that I learned to accept my hair as like being curly because the reels that were being pushed towards me were like, okay, this is what you can do to make your hair look better, or this is like what curly hair actually looks like, and
Right.
all of that stuff. It sort of helped me in a way. But I mean, I'm not trying to be contrarian here, but the thing is, I feel like the extent to which you can control social media and the way that it affects you is, I think so, minimal, because like obviously you can do it to an extent, but you don't really know what your own thoughts are anymore, or if you're feeling that way because you're feeling influenced. Like you need to remind yourself that you're not in control. That's the only way you can sort of move past, in my opinion. You
Mhm.
can say that okay, I'm feeling really bad, that oh, I haven't met my friends at all, or I need to do this with my friends, I haven't done this with my friends yet. You need to remind yourself, you need to step back and say that okay, the best versions of people's lives are on here,
Yes.
and I won't always post when I'm with my friends. So that doesn't mean I'm not having these experiences with my friends. It just means that these people are posting when they're having these experiences with their friends. So
Correct.
you need to like the biggest way you can move forward is by telling yourself that I have no control over this and I'm going to feel bad sometimes.
Right. I think that's a very, very how should I say, a very if I may use this word, a very sensible and insightful thing that you've said, that you have to remember that you also may be doing the same thing, but you're not posting it, and then they are posting only the good sides, the best moments, which is something that you know that it is only life is not only about the good times or the best moments. There's more to life, so you have to be a little more objective about what you see out there. And like you said, that it only shows you what you see, so it's the algo also at work, so you have to remember that as well. Okay, so Ishita, coming to you now as an educator, I mean, what are your views on this? I mean, how do phones and social media and this constant connectivity affect the focus and self-esteem of students?
So, I mean, you've picked up on two of the most important things, which are focus and self-esteem.
Mm.
And before I go into that, I mean, I have to pick up on what both Adya and Gayatri talked about. One is for at 17, to be aware that there is an algorithm at play. And, it, you know, one, I would commend the fact that both girls are so aware. Yet it also makes me think of the fact that there is a certain loss of innocence already if you have to live in a world where at 17 you need to be thinking of, how your mind is being manipulated.
Right.
Because part of growing up is also about thinking freely, living freely. Part of that is going to be falling, making mistakes. Now, if your mistakes are going to be so public, where there is a digital footprint that you leave behind, which essentially cannot really be erased, what
Mm.
does it do to the minds of young people? You
Right.
know, how fragile are we making them psychologically, where they feel that every error of theirs on a digital platform is something that can mark them for life? Okay, both of them are very self-aware, but um, there are many who are not.
Mm.
There are many who are not as discerning, who have not had that kind of guidance in life, who are not going to be looking at content and thinking that uh, there's an algorithm at work here. Or after you consume a certain amount of content, are your thoughts really your own anymore?
Mm.
They aren't really going to be thinking of it that way. They're going to be thinking of, how do I measure up in comparison? I mean, look at the power of social media. It has changed the way we use language. Is this gram worthy? This one's for the gram. I mean, we are literally living our lives. We've forgotten how to be in the moment. We've forgotten how to, we're living each moment thinking of how you can put this up and how it's going to appear already before you give yourself that time to pause and just enjoy an experience. So I completely understand that. On the other hand, I'm also aware that, well, there are larger forces at play. There's not much we can really do about social media. It's here to stay.
Right.
It's wonderful that Gayatri's parents gave her social media at a much later time, and I wish all parents would do that. Um, because the older you are, at least you have some more psychological tools to deal with, this onslaught. It's literally an onslaught, because the very process of watching reels, which are made, 45 seconds long, what it does to your brain and your brain's capacity to just sit down and absorb something at length,
Mm.
it's completely altered. Imagine what it does to young people who are watching reels for 45 seconds, maximum a minute and a half. And even if you're consuming reel after reel after reel on even educational things, it gives you this false illusion that you have achieved an expertise which you haven't really earned through years of work
Mm.
and of understanding something. So it's kind of creating a world where everybody knows a little bit about everything, but there's very little depth
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
things, right? The whole process of focus. I mean, you've picked up on something so important. um being able to sit in a lecture of 1.5 hours and just listen and absorb, read text, assimilate large portions of text is something we're really losing out on. And I
Mhm.
can say this being in a classroom where I'm expected to do that and I'm expected to engage with text. It is dwindling. Being Everything has become very performative.
Mm.
It's as if our lives are becoming performative. If it's not performative enough, if it's not, doesn't grab my attention in the first 30 seconds, it's not worth engaging with. That's the message we're giving out young people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not, even if you pick up a good book, sometimes it's going to not capture your attention for the first 30 to 50 pages. And then it may get interesting. But do we have the patience to sit with that anymore? As adults, we don't have it. How can we expect young people to have it?
Right.
So, I mean, that's focus. It has taken a hit, not just for children. I think even adults, I think all of us need to be, it's really altering our brain chemistry. That's what I really feel. And that's hugely problematic. Yes, there are positive ways of using social media. I try to do that myself, try to be as educational as possible, keep personal things out of social media. You don't have to share everything about your life on there. You are not living a performance based life.
Mm.
I'm trying to personally, I try to do that as well. But I think it's very hard for even adults to escape that.
Yeah.
The temptation is just too much. And then we come to the idea of self esteem. I think um, nobody has scrolled through social media and looked at somebody's life and at some point felt that, oh, that's the way life should be lived, or that I wish I was there and I was doing this or I was doing that or I was living that kind of life. And in that moment when you feel that, what Gen Z calls FOMO, right, the fear of missing out, that should have been you, that even no matter how wise you are, that thought doesn't come to you that everyone is putting up their best
Yeah.
over there. You still feel that, no, I'm missing out. In that moment, that's what your mind thinks. It's
Yeah.
hard. That's part of being human. We are like that. We are aspirational creatures. We look at things and we feel that that should have been me and I wanted to be there and my life is a little sad in comparison to that. I'm
Mm.
not doing all of those things. Or even if I am, everyone's not seeing me doing it. They just think I'm what kids would say. I'm such a loser compared to that. And so I think we as adults then again have a responsibility to have these conversations around things like social media. How does this algorithm work? That there's so much to life. There are many facets to life, to leading a fulfilling life, and life is long, right? And how to I think sometimes I hear children saying things that are, it's almost like self-flagellation, where they're
Mm.
so hard on themselves for small mistakes that they've made. And to just sit down and tell them that it's okay, you can be easier on yourself. Part of growing up is to make mistakes. And you will make mistakes, and it's inevitable. And sometimes those mistakes will be very public, and
Mm.
sometimes they may not be so public, and it's okay. you know uh it's not the end. You can move on from there. I think what we as adults can do is just again create spaces where we have conversations. It's very important to talk about these things, to also sometimes talk about yourself as a vulnerable human being, even as an adult.
Mm.
We're not immune to all of this either.
Absolutely.
And I'm also not going to be one of those people who's just going to wish away social media and say that, why did you even have to be on it? You shouldn't. It's difficult. We can't resist it. It's hard to tell young people to resist it. It's also it's we've reached a point where literally it's if you're not on social media, it's as if a part of you doesn't exist.
Mm.
So we can't bury our heads like ostriches,
Absolutely.
but I think we can equip them to understand that a lot of what you see, even in terms of beauty standards, it's so much of it is hours of teams of people working to make people look a certain way. There's a crew involved with makeup and lighting and styling and all of that,
Yeah.
right? And your life doesn't have to look a certain way. It's in fact uh, one of the things that I possibly like about social media is that it's a slightly more democratic way of connecting, where you can reach out to pretty much anyone in the world. If you're seeking and looking in the right places, there are places where you can see fringe thoughts, minority thoughts, people
Yeah.
who all kinds of people looking all kinds of ways. As facilitators, if we are aware, if we are teachers, we can guide children to in the right direction in terms of what to explore on social media, rather than just being performative about our own lives, because then you're sort of objectifying yourself as well there, right? And sometimes it's hard to explain to young people why objectification of the self can be too much objectification of the self is also problematic, right? Because they're beginning to just become very aware of the fact that they are uh, that they have a physical self, and it's something that can get them attention and appreciation. And it's so easy at a young age to mistake attention for affection, or connection, or even love, right? And I think that is something that again we need to talk about, especially with young girls, that the number of likes you get does not have to uh, create a sense of validation within you. It doesn't matter. If you get 0 likes, it's great. You're still as amazing as you were.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, right? And even if somebody does, it doesn't mean that they're thinking about you, right? Or they've connected with you in any meaningful way. It was just a moment where somebody clicked a button and then moved on to the next thing, you know. Uh, and your sense of self shouldn't really necessarily be dependent on that.
Yes.
So it is a big challenge. Social media has really altered, to a large extent, um, how people connect, how people see themselves, how we also live our lives. I think that is a big challenge, but we have to also, I think, start, we take two very extreme standpoints as adults. It's either nothing at all, or completely immersed in it. I think we have to ourselves and for children find a balance,
Yeah,
as to how we can live with this monster that's amidst us.
absolutely.
And yeah.
So you're right, you cannot wish it away, it is there. But I think what
Yeah.
I really picked up from from what you said is that we as adults need to have conversations. We need to make that physical contact also important. We're actually sitting face to face and talking to these children, telling them, explaining, hearing them out, giving our point of view, rather than just, like say, bury your this head in the, like an ostrich and think that it will go away, or it'll,
Yeah.
push it
Or
away.
say things like, don't do this at all, you should
Yes, yes.
not do this
No,
at
no, no,
all.
no.
I mean,
Have to be
yeah.
able to explain. That's
Yeah.
always the case. All right. So, girls, my next question is addressed to you. Now, we live our lives and everybody talks about, success, being successful here, being successful there, and whatever we are doing. So, what I want to know from you is that people your age, what does success feel like? What does it mean to you? Adya, you want to go first?
Sure.
Mm.
Um, at this very moment, I feel like in January of 2026, for 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds, I would say it feels like getting into your dream college,
Okay.
getting excellent marks in boards, and as well as keeping your sanity and feeling happy and content with yourself.
Okay. All right.
And in that, in in the happiness aspect of that, I feel like teenagers are very simple creatures. We derive joy from very meaningless, like not even meaningless. It's like we derive joy from small things. An
Hmm.
incident that can sort of explain this is, we recently went on a school trip, and one of our friends, she bought a old, do you remember like the Barbie mobile phones
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that used to come, like toy phones? She
Yeah.
bought one of those from off the road, and she got like two of those. And we were just talking to each other across the bus,
Okay.
with the music going on that phone, and everybody was just like giggling. Um, so I feel that moment just felt like a bubble of happiness and joy.
Okay. Okay. All right. So simple things, little things. Gayatri, what do you have to say?
Yeah.
I think so. Success is like very fleeting because it's not constantly there, because like Ishta Didi said that the target is something that's like moving.
Hmm.
So sometimes I feel success not out of marks, but when I like there was this moment the other night where like I was telling my parents stories about my friends and like a party that we had recently gone to, and this person said this, and like they were singing so badly, and it was all there was like this moment of, oh my god, I have friends. And it was this moment of like feeling loved, and like it,
Hmm.
that felt like success to me, that okay, in the future I want to have this. And the thing is, my parents have like a group of very close friends that they've been friends for like what 20 years with,
Hmm.
and like they're like my aunts and uncles, and like that gives me hope that in the future that I'm capable of having relationships like this. So when I'm surrounded by my friends and when I'm having a good time, that is what success feels like for me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's really
If
nice.
I can add on to what
Yeah,
Gayatri
sure.
said,
Hmm.
um, it's also about like what she said, success feels very fleeting here. And it's about the goals that you've set for yourself,
Hmm.
or the expectations that you have for yourself. For me personally, in sort of piggybacking off what Gayatri has said, in 11th grade, I made myself a promise at the very beginning of the year. I said that I've not been social for the past 13 years. This is the year I will be making friends.
Okay.
And in 12th grade, on my birthday party this year, I knew who I wanted to call. And it was a fairly big list of people, um, a long list of people. And I felt so content at that moment. I felt like I have succeeded. This is what I have done.
Wow. So it's not the material things. It is, I think, a sense of achievement, a sense of being surrounded by people who you want to be with and who want to be with you. I think that is,
Yeah.
how should I say, again, it shows clarity of thought. It shows that it's not only the physical, not only the material things which attract you, but it's something larger and bigger. And I think it has to do a lot with the way you've been raised, your parents, your educators, all of that. They have played an integral role in helping you come up with this definition or these ideas of what success should be in life. And I think kudos to you. So Ishita, my question to you now is, once again, as an educator, now, you know that schools and teachers, and like I said, they have a very integral role to play. And so far, this conversation has given me an idea as to what role they have played in the lives of these two young girls. But tell me, where do you think schools do well, and where do you think they fall short when it comes to student well being?
Okay. So I think it is undeniable, especially in places like Gurgaon, the schools that we are at, it is undeniable that schools have become much more inclusive spaces, much more sensitive, much more aware than what they were, say, even 10 years ago,
Hmm.
15, 20 years ago. That there's a lot, if there is a problem, most schools will not look away from it. They will try to address it, right? So I do feel that schools are much more sensitive places than they used to be. However, one thing that I do feel is that, having said that, um, sometimes we need to acknowledge that as adults, no matter how well-intentioned we are, I think all adults in a school environment are well-intentioned towards children.
Hmm.
But we must acknowledge that sometimes we end up doing harm as well, simply by what we say to children.
Okay.
And we are all coming from our own experiences and what we think uh, is the right thing to do towards a child, um, not understanding what perhaps the child requires at a particular point of time. So what I'm really trying to say is that while schools are very well intentioned,
Hmm.
overall, not everybody in a school is as equipped to deal with mental health issues, with anxiety, day to day, even just being a teenager, even if there is no mental health issue. And I think what I'm trying to say is that perhaps there needs to be a lot more sensitization of staff uniformly across,
Okay.
in terms of understanding that it's not so much about your life and what happened in your life, because they are living a different life, a
Hmm.
different set of circumstances, right? It's about understanding the individual in front of you and not projecting yourself onto them. Because there are so many adults even today whom you speak to and they talk to you about, so such and such thing happened with me in school, so and so teacher said this to me, and therefore I never do this or I do that, or I'm scarred in this manner or the other. I think it's important to understand and not do that to the children we are working with.
Yeah.
I do feel that that is an area where, while schools are sensitive, they may have one or two professionals who know how to deal with these situations, but I don't think that's enough. You can't have like a counselor who you say, okay, now we've handled mental health because we have a counselor, and children can go and talk to that counselor, whereas the rest of your staff is being as insensitive in the way they're talking to a child and possibly even triggering issues,
Hmm.
right? So I think that overall sensitization is extremely important, and that will come first by putting in work on ourselves,
Hmm.
unlearning a lot of our behavior patterns and keeping a very open mind. That I know that certain things that are happening in your life did not happen maybe when I was growing up. Whether I approve of it or disapprove of it is not the point here. The
Right.
point is, how do I help this child? And it's very difficult for adults to put away their disapproval or dislike, or whether they are getting triggered in some way while dealing with another individual. I don't see that as much in adults.
So yeah, that's
But just to build what Ishita Didi is saying just for a second. Like, I feel like even our generation, like now that Adya and I, like Adya's gonna be 18 in a few months and I'm already 18. I feel like sometimes the way our generation treats Gen Alpha, which is like a little younger than us,
Hmm.
it can sometimes be like, I mean, I have to make like an effort not to do it, not to do the back in our day thing already.
Hmm.
But I feel like that slip up is very common because every generation that exists before the generation that is currently there thinks that the current one is doomed.
Yeah,
So I feel like it's common.
it is. It is. It is. But
You know,
someone,
children are not cases that are brought before us for reform.
yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
too often we adults look at things like that, that we've got to set them right now, and our way of doing things, we'll tell you how to go about it.
Absolutely, because we're looking at it from our lens, from what we
Yeah.
think and know as being right. So, you know, giving the other person that space to be the way they are or the way they want to be, that is something we don't do. And perhaps by not doing it, we are teaching these younger ones also to be like that, you know, to the ones who are younger to them. So it's like a
Yes.
process which we set in motion. And I think, yes, sensitizing, becoming aware, and understanding that people are different, can be different, and we have to accept them the way they are. That is very, very essential all across. All right. So, girls, we've been talking about, you know, stresses and success and, you know, things that overwhelm us. So, my question is that what kind of support do you think actually helps when you are struggling and what kinds does not? I mean, I, as an adult, may be feeling I'm supporting you, but you may not think like that. So, what do you think? I mean, what kind of support actually helps? Gayatri?
So depending on how bad the issue is or what your current situation is, like I know I've been giving answers a lot like this, but I think so it's really dependent on the situation. I feel like sometimes what a person requires out of you is that you just listen to them.
Okay.
And sometimes the somebody who's not a professional just can't do that for you.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need professional help, and that's okay. But other times, like I said, what helps is to chat it out with your friends. What I would say doesn't always help is that when you tell people stuff and they sort of give you their own experiences and how they coped with it better, or how even through implication, I feel like when people imply that they in their time that they dealt with it better, I feel like that can be something that sort of slows the other person down. Or
Okay.
sometimes I feel like maybe when, like, depending on the person's mood, sometimes when they ask for advice, that's when you should give it. I think so. Unsolicited advice sometimes can slow the other person down, especially if you're a teenager. You don't want to listen to it. Sometimes you just want to talk, you know?
Actually, you never want to listen to it. If it's unsolicited,
Yeah.
if it's uncalled for, you never want to listen to it. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Adya?
I believe that it depends on one, the person,
Mm.
and two, the kind of situation that they're in.
Hmm.
For me personally, when I'm like a ball of nervousness or just I'm eh, fearing something that's going to happen, um, I want to just rant to somebody. I don't want you telling me that, oh, theek ho jayega sab kuch, everything's going to be fine. I don't want that. I just want you to listen. I want you to maybe agree with me a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think, again, what Gayatri said, sometimes the people in our lives, in our families, they need to understand and accept sometimes that they are not going to be the people we want to go to for everything
Right.
in all of our struggles. And sometimes we do need a professional, like Gayatri said.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's not all going to be fixed also just in like 2 days.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time, especially if it's something that's really deeply rooted.
Right. Okay. So, which brings the ball to the, you know, court of the adults out there, whether they are parents or they're educators. So, Ishita, my question to you. How can adults create safer spaces for teenagers to speak openly about not only mental health, but anything that they are facing? So, pretty much summing up in a way, a lot of what has already been said.
Um, After I answer this question, I'd also want Gayatri and Adya's inputs on that because they know what makes them connect with certain adults and why they would open up to some people more than others. What I feel is, I mean, there are several things. One is just being very, very observant of the children around you as an educator. That's the first thing,
Mm,
you know. The second thing is sometimes teenagers will come across as being closed up, not wanting to communicate in their own world, not very welcoming of you, or what we used to call moody. Teenagers that are moody,
mm,
right? So I think then the onus is again on the adult to bring in certain conversations, just open up certain avenues of conversation and communication, because there are times that, not all children are socially isolated, but some are,
mm,
and they are quietly going through something. And in that case, one-on-one conversations help, but you can't just start with a one-on-one conversation when there is absolutely no connection between you and the child.
mm.
So use your classes to just sit down and open up certain avenues of conversation through the course material that you're taking up, just to kind of put children at their ease that there is nothing that is, if you want someone to trust you, you have to allow them to understand that there is nothing that you're going to judge them for saying. And again, you have to lead by example, but whether it is by talking about things that you think that they think may be unacceptable in a classroom, um, they may be shocked by, or they don't expect a certain teacher to talk about, right? I think, I mean, again, because I teach a subject like literature where it's easy to do these things, it's easy to make a lot of connections to the emotional and the psychological. It's easier for language facilitators to do that, but I think all the social sciences allow you to do that to a lesser or a greater extent. I think the first thing is to just put them at their ease, to communicate non-judgment, to communicate openness, acceptance, and
Right.
then sometimes just wait for the child to come to you. But if you are noticing that there's something going on, sometimes a peer group will come to you. Sometimes there are some children, you see, they are so well bonded that the peer group will reach out to a particular teacher, or the peer group itself provides a certain kind of support, which makes it easier for you as a facilitator to provide intervention. But
Right.
sometimes a child is very socially isolated, but you know that there is a problem. You know they are suffering, and they are reluctant to come to you because already the isolation itself is playing on their mind.
Mm,
And that's when you will need to find ways to first just have casual conversations with the child. Appreciation. I think, we're very reluctant to appreciate teenagers for, even the little things that they do.
right.
Now, I know that giving an assignment on time is an expectation that we have.
Mm,
True. But if a child who is struggling with something manages to do something on time, I think it's something worthy of appreciation. And I think let's not be so stingy with our words of acknowledgement to not appreciate, because I may not be saying to the child that I know what you're going through and you did this despite that. But just that warm smile and saying that that's wonderful, excellent work. I really like the thought you put into this. Um, the child will get it,
Yes.
because children pick up, teenagers, they pick up on nonverbal cues. They know what you're implying by tone. They know what you're implying by a certain glance of disapproval. And then they're just never going to come to you if you're just going to censure. Oh, this was due 2 days ago and now you're giving it to me.
Mm,
But the child may have actually struggled through a lot to even give it to you 2 days late,
right.
but it's come. Right. So, I mean, I think little things like that, um, at least start the process. Again, not all of us are experts, but I think teachers who are approachable can make a small difference in at least starting a process and then trying to find out what's going on. And
Mm,
again, it depends. There's no one size fits all. Sometimes there may be a concern that requires parental intervention. You may need to have a conversation with the family about something. Sometimes there's a concern where you're not an you're not a professional mental health expert, so you may need to get recommend support from outside, but at least we spot the signs. We can do that in a timely manner, but for that, again, we have to just be very conscious that we have human beings and individuals who are growing, who have individual needs around us. They are not just one batch of children
Yeah.
who we can address generically. So just be very observant of that, reaching out on time, having informal conversations. Sometimes a child's opinion about something may also may also be an indication
Yeah.
of what media the child is consuming, what an environment at home is. So if you're a vigilant, observant facilitator, there's a lot you can pick up
Yeah.
from these things and then find ways to address it.
Right.
Sometimes some things can be addressed indirectly also. You don't need to have a one-on-one conversation with a family or a child, but sometimes that may be required. But at least understanding that this is also part of our job. This is also what we need to do, and not just teach our subject and walk out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is very, very important. We are educators. We are not just subject experts.
I agree. I completely agree with you. Girls, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think so. I'd agree with Ishita, and I would also like to say that like something that contributes to me trusting an adult is when I think so when they're not afraid to say sorry, like when they've messed up or when they've had a bad day,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, I understand that you yelled at me because you were having a bad day, but saying that, yeah, I screwed up, it was a tough day for me.
Hmm.
I think so that makes me respect you a lot more. Or just telling me that you trust me. Like I remember there was this one time where I forgot my notebook or I forgot to do some work, and I told my teacher like, I swear I've done the work, and I just left the notebook, and she didn't have to say much to me. And this is my first time working with this teacher, and she looked me dead in the eye and she says, Gayatri, I trust you.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like from that moment onwards, I was just like, I want to prove her right. I want to show her that she has a good reason to trust me. So I guess treating us like people and like acknowledging that you're a person too, that helps.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
agree. Adya?
Sangeeta, children live up to the
Also,
expectations we have of them. If
Yeah.
we speak to them that, oh, you're never going to do it, I know it, this is how you are, they will prove us right. And when we tell them that, like Gayatri said, I trust you, or something else,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, children tend to want to live up to whatever expectation there is. So if we speak to them like, you're no good, then they're going to want to not put in any effort, right? And if we tell them that, I know, there's a lot that you're processing, and I know you're going to come up with something, they're going to at least want to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's human nature, I mean, even with us, if somebody shows belief in us, we'll want to do better. We'll
Yeah.
want to live up to that belief. But if someone says you're already, I know you can't do this, you won't even try.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Adya, what do you have to say?
I think one of the most important things is for an adult to not like immediately set up a dictatorship. I would never go to any teacher who just comes into the classroom and tells you that this is what you have to do. I will be the only one who's in charge here. You have no say in any of this. And also, uh, be genuine as a person. If it if any adult is genuine, I would approach them in any context for any advice or anything really. But if even with body language, we can see like this person's just doing it for the heck of it. They're not actually, they don't want to help. It's like almost like, oh, I, you can ask me to explain this concept however many times you want to, but then when you actually ask them to do it, they make that face kind of a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think being genuine and being there for them is what adults can really do. And I think, like you said, all these things about I know it all, or, being condescending towards them, or, being just kind of brushing aside their views, all those things are definitely not going to help. Okay, so now we come to the last question of this conversation, which is addressed to all three of you. So I think I'll start with Adya first. The question is, if there is one change you'd like to see in how teenagers are supported today, what would it be?
I would say, um, for them to be seen as human beings are not just problems or just moody creatures.
All right.
Um, in a lot of ways, I feel that's how people view us, especially adults.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Ishita, what do you have to say?
I think, again, I say that adults are very well intentioned, but I think, there are subtle differences between observing and scrutinizing. You can scrutinize an object, you observe with the intention of, being helpful. So I think I will resonate with what Adya said, that we stop looking at teenagers as problems to be fixed, as looking into their world from the outside. Try
Mhm.
to be a part of it, and it will be a wonderful experience even for us.
Yes.
I think one of the things that I've always enjoyed in my 13 years of teaching, irrespective of the age group that I've taught, is either watching children playing or watching children talking and
Hmm.
just being around.
Hmm.
There
Hmm.
is so much, it is so much fun, you know. Forget about what all you get to learn and, what all you get to observe. It is just so much fun. There is so much joy in that,
Yeah.
being just a part of their world in that way. Trying to be a part of their world rather than watching them with the intention of trying to sort them through, scrutinizing them, and thinking that our job is reform. Our job is to understand one another as human beings, to try to make each other's lives in the world a lighter place for all of us. And
Yeah.
that is not asking for too much. Um, and I think that is what I would like to see, just people being more involved with young people as individuals and not as you know to, holding yourself at kind of either superior or at a position above
Yeah.
and talking down.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. All right. Yes, Gayatri, what do you have to say?
So I feel like one more thing that I think could help is that while like instead of don't treat them like moody creatures and like outsiders, or but I also feel like one thing that could help is not like glorifying being a teenager so much. Like I feel like media and everything contributes like, oh, these are the years of your lives and this is going to be the best and it's going to be the most fun you've ever had and this is when you have fun. So why aren't you having fun? It's just like sort of lay off a bit in that sense also, that like don't glorify it to an extent. I feel like this is very deep rooted. So I don't know to what extent this can be done.
Hmm.
But like glorifying it a little less, I think so that could help.
Yeah.
And while I feel like this is improving quite a bit, um, letting them like knowing that they can confide in their adults and like if they ask their adults for help by saying that, hey, I don't think so. I think so. I need professional help right now, mom and dad. I don't think so. I just your advice will do for now.
Hmm.
I feel like believing them when they say stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Believing children is so important because
yes,
I think
yes,
very often, yeah, teenagers don't feel heard enough,
yeah,
or that their version of things doesn't matter enough. I think that's something that we communicate to them a lot.
we do, we do, we do. So I think there has to be a semblance of balance. It's not that they are moody, difficult to deal with, and all of that. And yet, it is not like you said, glorifying it and saying these are the best years of your life as though you're not going to get better times. So, that sense of balance has to be there. It is a stage of your life. And like this stage, there are going to be other stages. So, just be okay with it, normalize it. Don't make it sound like you're approaching doomsday or you've scaled the heights or something like that. Just be normal and balanced about it. All right. So while we've come to the end of the conversation, we still have the rapid fire round, which is 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. I get to decide who answers first, and I also get to decide who answers what. So I hope you're okay with that. Yeah. All right. All set? Okay.
Yeah.
So, first question for you, Adya. One place, whether real or imaginary, where you feel completely yourself.
I would say in like Camp Half Blood. I don't know. I'm really into that
Okay. Okay.
space right now of Percy Jackson for some reason.
Okay. Gayatri, what about you?
Oh, okay. I feel like whenever I'm freaking out, I sort of imagine this like meadow type place with like a big tree and there's grass and all of my friends are around me and it's like warm and nice. So that's when I feel my calmest.
All right. Ishita, my next question is for you. One quiet strength you see in students that doesn't get enough credit.
Mm, I think the way they stand by each other.
Okay.
I think we don't, as adults, don't understand it. We think that that's a negative thing, and that they are ganging up or something. But I think they give each other a lot of strength and understanding, and it's very underrated. Also, what we there's, I mean, peer pressure is true; it's there, but I think underrated is the opposite of what a positive impact peer groups can also have on each other.
Okay. Great. Next question for you, Gayatri. One thing that makes you feel hopeful about your generation.
That's an interesting one. I'd like to say how I think so social media has connected us. So
Okay.
how we can be connected by like a certain show or like a certain phenomenon. Like if it's cricket teams or if it's football teams or if it's a show, then
Mm.
it's people across the globe like waiting for this show for this date. Everybody's people are staying up and like how connected we can be by something like that. And I feel like that's something that's quite amazing. And like while there's like scary stuff about how easily we're influenced, also how easily we come together is something that I think so is quite beautiful.
Wonderful. Adya, what do you have to say?
I would say sort of similar to what Gayatri said, but from what I've seen, a lot of people our age, they don't, they treat friendship as if they're family, right? That's something that I really love is family isn't always blood kind of situation that happens.
Okay.
And it's really heartwarming to see.
Okay. The next one is for all three of you. One word you'd use to describe the kind of future you hope teenagers grow into. Ishita.
I think so. One thing that I see about this generation is that for them, nothing is. Some people view this as a negative, but I see it as a huge positive that nothing is so sacrosanct that you can't really question it. And I think that is the foundation for change. When you question, you will eventually try to change something that doesn't satisfy you. So I really do believe that for all the criticism and flack that Gen Z gets and that
Mhm.
Gen Alpha will also get, I think that the fact that they are willing to question everything can possibly lead us to a better world.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, that's what I believe.
Okay. Adya, what do you have to say?
I can't think of a word for this, but the entire phenomena of just being so unapologetically yourself,
Okay.
that's what I hope that future teenagers also get. Yeah.
Gayatri?
I think so mine would be very similar to others that people can sort of just be and you don't need to label everything. You can just sort of exist.
Okay.
So, you know.
All right. Ishita, next question is for you. One habit you wish adults would unlearn when interacting with teenagers.
Um, Unlearn your own projection of your own expectations, and don't thrust them onto them.
Mm.
They're their own individuals. They're going to live their own lives. They are not here to please us and to, you know, suit our or fit into our version of things. Let's ally with them on them being the best version of them and not us.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the rapid fire round and also the conversation. And if I may say so, very insightful, delightful, and lot to learn from. Because I feel that all three of you brought in your perspectives. Of course, while Gayatri and Adya were aligned in a lot of ways, and of course, as expected, but I think even Ishita, though much older, though your teacher, the kind of views that she brought forward, I think they are also in alignment, in tandem with what you said. And I think there's a lot which adults can pick up. Educators, parents, teachers, everybody can pick up a lot from this conversation because We cannot do away with teenagers in the same way that teenagers cannot do away with us. And if we all have to live in a world which is happy, which is cohesive, I think we all need to understand each other's perspectives and views. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the About Her show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her show.